Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Okay, this is a fun one. So this is a fun one. It's a little bit lighter, and again, as we've said so many times, there is you will find some truths there in the Bible, and you'll find a lot of distortion as well, because of course, the control system has written and rewritten this to suit itself so many times. They give you nuggets of truth. They give you distortion as well. And it's this tangled web that the Anunnaki themselves have come through and said they're very, very proud of just how tangled this web is. They view it as almost impossible for the average person to decipher. And if it wasn't for the ability to channel and get information from the guides, yeah, absolutely. This is a real tricky one to get what's the truth separated from what's the distortion.
You know, it does take some time to learn these truths and learn to feel the truths. Inside of each one of us is this magnetic field of energy, and we're going to know the truth when we hear the truth, and even subconsciously we're going to feel the truth. It's something that you become when you're on this journey and you're making deliberate steps to strengthen your energy field. So it's something everyone has if they want to get it. Granted, it does take time. In this TikTok world, it doesn't seem like people really have time to develop that, but we all can.
Absolutely. So before we get going, we want to thank our newest patrons, Mr. Floyd, Peter, Dangerous, kind of like dangerous, but with the E in a different place. Dangerous or Dangerous. And Tyson. So thank you guys for your support. And we've touched on this before with the information we've gotten from the guides, and actually the channeling that Cindy did from Vishnu, which was incredibly powerful, and we were very grateful for it because it was at a time when Cindy was going through a lot of health issues. And after she channeled Vishnu, she started to get better and better and stronger and stronger. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was the earth was formless and empty. So again, what this is pointing to is two creations. Yes, the creator of this universe basically created everything, and with the help of other beings like we would know as the archangels and the elemental kingdom as well. Now that part about the earth being formless and empty is really referring to the destruction of Tiamat, because originally earth was Tiamat. And if you guys saw the Patreon only video we did, we talked about the dragons of Tiamat that are awakening, the Kundalini energy, the consciousness of Tiamat, the higher self of Tiamat that is awakening as the earth is being healed and restored. This cataclysmic event, which is chronicled in the Sumerian records from a different point of view, from the conqueror's point of view, so to speak, the Dark Cabal point of view. This didn't happen that long ago, not millions of years. This is again part of the distortion. Tiamat was basically rendered without any help. It would be incapable of supporting life, but there was a miraculous recreation, restoration of Tiamat, and Tiamat moved into the current position of Earth. And again, Earth is smaller than Tiamat was. When we see a lot of giants, not all giants, but the gigantic giants, as Mud Fossil University has talked about, what we're looking at there is really remnants of Tiamat.
Right. And this is a world that's been recreated, and in a way, as fast as Mother Nature could go, she put Earth back together. And I call that the superconscious. The superconsciousness was put into place to bring as much life and save as much life as possible. And we have a new world here on Earth, to sustain the life that was lost on Tiamat.
Absolutely. So, again, it's kind of a recreation because of the cosmic war that was going on and the destruction of the planet by that dark cabal, that dark side, AI driven, because it is an AI intelligence at the very top of the pyramid. So if we do see the all-seeing eye, it can represent a lot of things. It could represent our own pineal glands awakening, because then we could view everything. We don't even have to be there. It can also be alluding to the power structure being off planet and really watching everything separated from the planet as you look at the all-seeing eye and the capstone not being set into place. It's above. It's above the rest of the pyramid. So again, alluding to the fact that the real power structure is not here. And then we could also look to that all-seeing eye being not of this natural order of the universe. And again, because the all-seeing eye is not, on the pyramids, and AI is an artificial intelligence. It's not an organic intelligence.
No, I mean, that's the big thing that we need to keep in mind is there's a copy for everything organic in place. And there's, I call it the Luciferian experiment, where they try to take us away from source or completely disconnect us from source. So another source, the AI false source, can take over and create that which organically comes naturally to us. And it really seems like that's what they're doing right now on every single level.
So it goes on, talks about let there be light, etc., the first day. And then we go to in verse 6, and God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above the vault. And it was so. And God called the vault sky, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered unto one place, and let dry ground appear. And it was so. And God called the dry ground land, and gathered waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. Okay. So right there, that's where people get this idea sometimes that, we're, living in a dome, and a flat plane dome. And, everything still revolves around the earth. We are geocentric, not heliocentric. And that, again, you can't get in, you can't get out. Well, there is some truth, again, to what's being put here. But it has to be looked at from a little different point of view. Again, we have this point of view. Fundamentalism, you look at everything literally. And, again, a lot of things are allegory. Because, again, Yeshua, he's teaching in parables because the system is the same system. So, again, parables teach truths. And if you want to really delve deep into some wonderful parables, go into the Upanishads. Again, from the Hindu point of view, and you'll find that they resonate and sound just like some of the best stuff from the Bible. It really is, again, because they are really giving us some remembrance of truth and reality, but of course the system has distorted it. When you look at space, what we call space, and you look at some of the pictures that have come in, these Hubble's pictures are just amazing. And of course, we can't trust NASA. Never a straight answer. That's kind of obvious. But again, they give us lies and distortions with some truth. Now, space is teeming. And in fact, it's not a black void. And if you astral travel it, you'll find there's amazing colors everywhere.
There are. There's one photo in there, I think if Mike left it in, the first time I did decide to travel, the first thing I saw was a very large eyeball, and it was so beautiful. It was huge. It was majestic. It was an eyeball of all things. And I thought that was amazing. And that's the one thing I will never ever forget, is seeing this giant eyeball. I was surprised to see this when we were looking through images, because if I had any artistic talent, this is what I would have drawn. It was just this huge eye that I went across, and I could see the whole thing, and it took up a very big space, and it was quite exciting, and I was kind of taken back to be able to see something like this, and just knowing, boy, how big does that other being have to be, and in so many ways, how small are we if that being is that big? And just think, if we are here observing ants on the ground, are they seeing us as a giant like I saw this eyeball? So it's all very exciting. The first time I did see something in space, and I really enjoyed it, and it was quite a treat. And I don't know, I'll never forget it. It was great.
Yeah, and again, I would strongly refer people, if you are of the still, believing in more of a fundamentalist slant, then learn the 7 Hermetic principles. Look into Hermeticism and Kabbalah. They would probably be easier to digest than, a different system, because it's still based basically on the Abrahamic point of view of things to a degree. The Western mystery tradition, again, had to be a mystery tradition because you would be executed. It was just that simple. The control structure didn't want you understanding how the universe works. So they gave us this fundamentalist mindset, which was very easy to control. When you give people stories and they tend to believe them literally, of course, we grow up. We don't believe Santa Claus comes anymore, fat guy in the big outfit. Maybe Dad dresses up like Santa Claus. We don't believe the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy. We understand that's our parents. Our parents are doing that to have fun and to bring joy to us, even if it is a little white lie. And sometimes people don't let go of the white lie. They still believe it throughout their adulthood, which is what the system is banking on. So when we look at this, when we look at gosh, there are so many stars out there. What are these? Every single one of these is consciousness. These are beings. And in many aspects, you might find you out there, the higher self you. Because again, consciousness is creating these little worlds to explore for the bigger self, to send a portion of itself off to explore new things. Because again, our nature, our very nature is eternal. That is our nature. You cannot get behind consciousness. In other words, there's nothing that comes before consciousness. Consciousness always is, and always will be. And consciousness does the creating. Consciousness is not the byproduct of chemical reactions as they would have you believe. This is from Live Science. Why is space a vacuum? A vacuum's an empty space, which space nearly achieves. No, now that is a distortion, and you'll get people that don't understand much. All they know is that there's a lie going on here, and that they don't buy it. And, again, they haven't gone deep enough or done enough internal work with meditation to perceive things outside of their own body. Or maybe they have at some point in time. Most often in this world, unfortunately, utilize something chemically to alter consciousness in an uncontrolled fashion, and get a glimpse and just know, this is a lie. This matrix is not what it appears to be. As you see, a vacuum is a space devoid of matter. It's a void, so to speak. Now, space is not truly a vacuum. And this one's talking about the fact that you would be dead within 10 to 15 seconds if you didn't have a spacesuit on. Well, again, if we look back to the biblical part of it, talking about creating a vault between the waters to separate water from water, so I want to share with you information we got from our guides, which includes the Galactic Federation, and I do have a tape recorded portion that I'm going to play for you guys. Again, this is the middle of the night. This is like at 3 or 4 a.m. And Cindy starts to channel because she's out of body, and then they will come in. And there is a gatekeeper, and again, the darker energies can't come through. Like when the Anunnaki do come through, she's totally awake. And again, the gatekeepers, which are from the Galactic Federation, will not allow them in, obviously, as well as the ones that we call the mothers, which are some of our most imminent guides. So I do want to play this for you guys, and it starts off with her kind of deep under.
Thank you. Is what we call space in reality more of a less dense version of air and water?
We can give you some information on this. What you would call space is very much like moving through the waters of your planet. It is a thicker version than your air, and it is a thinner version of your water. You blend with this information, and you create with your thoughts. Your thoughts are so very important to bringing this information together to create what you wish. This is all for you. This world, this unfolding of information is a process that is very self-centered, but is self-centered to each and every one of you. Each and every one of you being a very important piece of the information unfolding. It is a less dense version of water and a more dense version of air.
So it is also obviously teeming with life.
Teeming with life, just as your oceans teem with life, just as your skies teem with life. Space is teeming with life.
And we're in a bubble of a sort.
This is a fair assumption. The images that are created in your mind are not simply made up, but these images are of a light form, of these different beings. We realized this channel had gone through a series of seeing different types of entities that are quite disturbing to her thoughts. She blames herself.
So this gets into all the things that we've seen, because we have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the reality is most of them out there are kind of more neutral good when you get down to it. When you're talking about the beings that are in our imminent space that are truly controlling us, like the ones that Crowley contacted, the ones John Dee contacted, again, that is the draconian system that is in charge of this planet and has been in charge of this planet during the Kali Yuga. So yeah, the first ones you're going to come in contact with if you're venturing out, and they can sense when people are venturing out. will be those darker energies until you pull your energy up higher to a place where they can no longer affect you. Then they won't be able to get so close to you. They will try, but again, keeping your frequencies high will keep them away. And so what we've encountered time and time again, especially when we were remote in the desert, it seemed like we were constantly encountering new beings, and some of them were startling. I remember being under and seeing with the third eye, and seeing a strange little guy walking outside our camper, stopping, looking at us, and tilting his head because he was so curious at us. And Cindy and I both jumped with a start because we were seeing him at the exact same instance as he was seeing us. And, this was in Nevada, across from the base, the military base. And, again, he wasn't a bad guy. He was just curious. There's tons of curious beings. And I remember Cindy remote viewing as we were watching a string of ships in the sky going from a wormhole. It would look like a wormhole, some sort of portal that would open up. They'd come out of nowhere, and they'd cross the sky in an arc, and they'd go onto Nellis, and they would disappear into another portal. And these were little worker bees, just, not necessarily dark creatures, definitely not, demonic like some of the things we've seen, but just simply doing their job. They almost hit me as like, the dwarves, hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. I mean, this is the kind of attitude they had. They were just working and doing their thing, and their thing is intergalactic trade.
I think people have certain expectations, and because of those expectations, they might not see a lot of things. They might look past a lot of things, or they might just shrug it off and say, "Oh no, that's not real." But there's a lot out there when we're dealing with dimensions, densities, and what we can see with our pineal gland when we're translating the information that's out there, that light that hits our pineal gland, and then the information that hits our chakra. That's when we really start seeing what's out there. And higher self is pretty good about keeping people in a stable place. And that's why we're more into, do the mantras, do the meditations, because if you're doing the right thing will happen, instead of cracking that pineal gland open with using other substances. That's like skipping lines, and you just can't do that. You can't skip lines because that can cause problems. And when you do get yourself in a space where you can see all these other beings, it's very matter of fact, and you just see them. Like, you might look over and see your partner across the table. It's just, okay, there they are, and there's not a lot of emotion to it. There's not fear, there's not anger, they're just there. And you're able to describe what you see. And everybody has that ability.
Absolutely. So we did a video, I want to say about a year ago, that we were trying to give an explanation that is easy to understand. Because again, I've understood some aspects of this for a very long time, and other things have really been, I've been very curious about exactly what's going on. And you can, again, utilize that as above, so below to, in general, describe what's going on pretty accurately as you're looking at cells. So if you look at a cell, right, this line here, this membrane, is permeable. It can let nourishment in. It can let excretions out. It's not impenetrable, but it does create a barrier of sorts to maintain the integrity of the cell. And so, this is pretty similar to the Earth. You could view the Earth, again, as we've said so many times, as a single cell in something bigger. The atmosphere, you could view this as the atmosphere. Is it impenetrable? No, of course not. It's not meant to be impenetrable. Because, there is communication that goes on between cells. They have to communicate, of course. Yet there's fluid inside and there's fluid outside. And so, just to take you back to some, basic biology, the interstitium, this is the fluid-filled space existing between a structural barrier, such as the cell membrane or the skin. We were talking about recently how, again, science wants to give you the impression that you cannot absorb oxygen through the skin. But yet they'll admit that you can. And then they'll say, well, not in a usable amount. Well, no, because you've been told you can't, and because, the techniques to pull that into the body have been hidden. But you can find techniques in Qigong, which just is a Chinese word for energy work, that do very much just that. And many of the secret societies understood this too. The book Initiation into Hermetics, which I happened to just find as a 7-year-old child in a new house. The only thing in this house was Initiation into Hermetics. And that was written by Franz Barden, who viewed himself as a magician of some sorts. Now, magician in the true sense of creating conformity of this exterior world to the interior world in your mind. And it comes through visualization. Everything comes through visualization. This is why they are always giving us negative visualizations to reinforce. So, if you look to this, again, extracellular fluid, there's body fluid outside the cells of a multicellular organism. Slightly different viscosity, slightly different substances. But again, this is penetrable. It has to be. And so the Earth is not totally separate from everything else. The Earth is just a single cell. And yeah, beings come and go all the time. And at some point in time, probably not in the too distant future, for those that are working on the spiritual side of things, and you will see that the holograph that's put up there as the sky is just that. It's a holograph, just like the moon. The moon is a 4D object, but there's a holograph put on it. So, Project Bluebeam, it's been here the whole time. The whole time. It is a fractal universe. This is that as above, so below. And, some of the very first videos I ever did in 2017 was all about fractal universe. I want to say the first half dozen were just about this. Yeah, it's a mirror of the self. These are the patterns. This is not unlike something that I had seen when I did use one of those substances that can induce this type of thing that people do on shamanic journeys. And so, again, in these times, I would tread cautiously because, again, to use a biblical term, Satan is let loose like a wild animal right now. The control system is looking for anything they can to get a hold of people. So I think we need to be clear and experience clarity in these times. I wouldn't really recommend altering the chemistry of your brain in any way, shape, or form, but natural ones through meditation, yoga, and Qigong. But yeah, there are patterns. You will see patterns and the interconnectedness of everything. Everything is interconnected. We've never been alone, and we are always being visited. Always. It never stops. And again, we are living in the body of something bigger.
Mm-hmm. It's really quite fascinating when you go down that road and you start to do the exercises that helps you bring about the understanding of this bigger world that we live in. It's just, there's just so much, and it's really hard to cover from each and every different type of perspective where people might have an understanding.
Yeah, but again, that as above, so below explains a lot. So yeah, absolutely. Space is not a vacuum, and it's more akin, as the Galactic Federation was explaining, it's not as thick and viscous as our oceans, but it is more thick and viscous than the air we breathe. It's not an impenetrable barrier, but it is a barrier when we're talking about the atmosphere. It is a barrier, but it's not impenetrable. And can we leave it? Yes, we could leave it. And again, many of us do on a regular basis. Doesn't mean that we're taking the whole physical body with us. The physical body is just the densest layer to ourselves. But we are not dependent on the physical body for our consciousness. No, when the physical body is done, just as the Bhagavad Gita says, worn out clothes, what happens? You throw them out. And when the body is worn out because it's intended to only have a certain lifespan, we leave it. And hey, it was a good suit for the time being, and that time is over. So now we move on and we go explore, because we are eternal. And so again, when you look to the earth, it's not really flat per se in this holographic universe that we experience, but in another density, so to speak, it could be a projection from a different density, but the projection is basically spherical. But it is as if the earth is suspended in a fluid that is not devoid of life. No, it's suspended in a fluid that's teeming with life.
Mm-hmm. Light and sound make form. So this is what we have, and there's so much more around us than we know. And I saw a little funny thing, and it says, aliens drive past Earth and they lock their doors. I mean, we're not ready for them, but we're getting there.
Well, and that's not our own fault, because some are ready for them, and some of them do visit people and have visited people all throughout the Dark Age, because there's some that don't lose that connection. And then there's others that fall totally under the sway of the system. So this is how there is truth in the BIBLE in this statement, and yet it is kind of a distortion what's out there in the fundamentalist mindset, because just because there are fluids around us and we do have a barrier, that barrier is permeable and purposely permeable. So again, we're not alone. No, we've never been alone. And, again, whether you want to view things as extraterrestrial or not, most of the life out there does not originate on Earth. No. And Earth itself has only been Earth for a limited period of time. It was Tiamat. And Tiamat, the consciousness of Tiamat, is in the process of ascending, and we want to ascend with it and leave this darker matrix that's been constructed to confine behind. And they understand that. And that's why they're trying to trap as many as possible with them. So I hope you guys found this interesting. Please do share this far and wide, because again, we really can't. So, and we do appreciate your guys' support over on our Patreon. There are links on every single video to take you to Patreon. And for less than basically 3 cents a day, you can take part in the family over there, support our work, and also get exclusive videos that only go up on Patreon. Much love. God bless. Namaste.
Namaste.